Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too long. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jenn.
My name is Emily, and yes, it is now after Valentine's Day. We had a bit of a situation unfold with our Valentine's Day episode. Maybe it had a little bit of a curse on it because of the stories that we told on the podcast. Did you think about that?
Maybe. Well, I mean, it was our Valentine's episode and then the one right after Valentine's episode. Both of those cursed episodes. Editing them was a nightmare, and I'm so sorry.
Listen, Jen has the patience of a saint to even be trying to do this in the first place, because I think I would have just gave up and cried. I'd be like, they're gone forever.
Well, I really liked our Valentine's Day episode. Like, I felt like it was a really good episode, so I was like, we can't scrap it. I love it, though.
And it's not an easy one to remake either, because there's nothing quite like reading your guys' stories for the first time and being able to react to them. At least for me. I know Jen has to proof things before we put them on the air, but...
Yeah, I mean, I try and just, like, skim them when I'm, like, picking stories so that I don't, like, know all the details, but... Either way, that's in the past. R.I.P. to anyone who listened to our last two episodes. I hope they were okay, but they did make me question everything about my life. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I doing this?
Just bored.
Why did I sign up for this? Like, I chose this. I don't know why anymore.
That's the thing. When you're doing something like punishing, like if it has to do with like work or something else that you choose to do, like say what we do with the podcast, it's when you get to one of those moments where it's like very punishing in the moment, you're like, I literally did this to myself, and for what? And for what?
Literally, like, it feels different when it's like something I have to do, like my taxes, and it's punishing. I'm like, fuck me, like, whatever, let's get through it.
As you're trying to go through papers and they're all from 2020 and you're like, oh my god, why am I so organized?
Literally. But when it's something like the pod where it's like, you know, this is voluntary, we're doing this for fun mostly, and, you know, for y'all out there. Still hard to believe there's any of you, but apparently there are.
At least a couple.
Weird. At least one or two.
At least one or two. Yeah, like I said, you're an angel above all angels, because sweet baby Jesus, that was a lot. But we made it, and we're here today. Is there anything from this last week other than work, because we're always working to support our livelihoods, that you want to share on the podcast?
Literally, no. I just working, editing those fucking episodes. I was telling Emily I was sweating while I was wearing like a really heavy sweater, and it was just so hot in my office when I was editing those that I was just like dying. So I really went through hell and back for those episodes. And that's all that's new. Because like I literally had to take like a day to just do nothing after editing those, because I was like, I'm gonna kill someone if I have to do anything today.
See, I would be like, when stuff like that happens where like you're overstimulated and you're on like the precipice of just like falling into like madness from how stressed you are, I always swing back and forth on like that pendulum where it's like, do I sleep for 24 hours straight, or do I get crazy drunk? I'm always like swinging there, and I'm like, which one is it going to be?
See, I feel like I usually do something just like totally out of pocket. Like, I just dyed my hair on Saturday. It's slightly
I thought it
darker.
looked darker in photos, and I was like, that sneaky little bitch. But I also do the same thing, so I can't really say that much.
And then I did my nails. Like, I did literally acrylic nails on myself for the first time.
Hey!
And then I don't even know what happened, but like, so I put them on Saturday. They were really cute. Looked great on Sunday. Monday I got to work. I was working on, it was a stat holiday, but I still had to work. I was the only person in the office, and typing with them on was making me just like hate the way that my skin felt. Like, I was just like, oh, this is too much. And so I literally ripped them all off. Like,
I feel that
immediately.
so hard. That has been my also personal hell, because I also have acrylic nails on right now that I got a couple weeks ago. But I kind of like, I've adapted around them now where like I can do a little bit. But the thing is because your nails are growing at the same time, they're now slightly too long. So I keep pressing the letters above the letters that I'm trying to type out. And it is, whoa, like it is just, like I literally thought I was gonna go crazy. Like a couple days ago, I went and I proofread a paragraph that I wrote, and like all the like the letters and everything are jumbled up because I kept hitting the letters above the letters that I was trying to type, and I was like, "This is gonna be my last email I ever write," because I'm gonna have to throw myself in the lake afterwards.
I don't know how people do it. Like I was just like, it was just making me mad. So I literally like fucking ripped them off, and there's just like a little tiny pile of fucking fingernails on my desk. I was like, fuck these nails.
I love too that you were all by yourself, so it's not like anybody else could be witness to your chaos. You just really suffer in silence. But that's like for people who do have longer nails. Like I know somebody who gets acrylic nails like all the time. Like as soon as their set starts to grow out, they get a new one, and they have a job as a hairdresser. You know what I mean? And like I literally would be going after those things with scissors, like and like getting your hair stuck in your nails. I don't get it. I don't get how people can live like this.
I don't get it either. I think the girls who have long acrylic nails, you are God's bravest soldier, because I could never.
No, literally.
I just it took like 4 hours for me to be on the brink of fucking like the end of a goddamn rope, and I was like, either these nails are coming off or I'm just gonna do something. I'm just gonna lose it.
Or Jen's gonna go flying off the bridge of disaster.
Literally. But yeah, how was your week?
Oh god. My week has been very chill, I guess, compared to that. My husband and I, we had dinner, and that was fun. And then this is a fun one. I went for a Botox appointment, and it was a medically required one.
Ooh, for your teeth grinding?
Mm-hmm. So they had to Botox my jaw. It was actually my second treatment because I had to get my first treatment a couple weeks ago. But then I went in, and they said that basically my jaw muscles were so strong that I was already regaining a lot of muscle control in my jaw, even after only 2 weeks of having the treatment done. So they had to give me another, 9 units, they said. I'm basically 1 unit away from having the maximum amount of Botox that one person can have in their jaw. So that's fun. I'm actually looking forward to not grinding my teeth all the time because, for one, tooth problems, but also secondly, I am also really sick of waking up in the morning and having my teeth hurt and my head hurt because I'm stressed in my dreams or something. I don't know what goes on at nighttime. What else did I do this week? I learned more about the Omegaverse that I was going to tell you about. And it's a perfect time to do it on the podcast because we've talked about it already on the podcast because I'm still reading the stinking Omegaverse series. That's really, really good that I like. But so I saw a video on my TikTok because I've been wondering for a while, what the deal is, right? Because I've just kind of been describing it to everybody as, it's meant to be, werewolfy because it kind of is, right? With how I talk, right. I described it on the pod and everything else. Apparently, it has a whole history of how it even, became a thing. And I'm going to give you one guess. I love doing this because you never get it right. I'm going to give you one guess. What TV series started the Omegaverse?
Vampire Diaries.
You're actually pretty close.
Teen Wolf.
Supernatural.
Really?
And I'm going to explain it to you because this is actually a documented timeline. So first I'm going to go back to what I was saying about the Omegaverse. I thought it was werewolves. Apparently it's described more as a pack mentality type, a pack mentality romance type series, which is often confused with werewolf romances. But the main difference is that with Omegaverse, it's more weirdly, I don't want to say primitive, but they do a very much, they emphasize a lot on pheromones and owning somebody and having a bond and needing to mark them on top of the whole like alpha, beta, omega thing that I was telling you guys about. So I was like looking at it, I was like, literally, how does this relate to Supernatural? Like, I've seen Supernatural. I was like thinking about it, I was like, I am so confused right now. So apparently it starts with Supernatural because when Supernatural first came out, people were watching the show and they wanted to be, and like in the first, like, I think it's like 2 or 3 seasons, it's just Sam and Dean fighting monsters, right? And there wasn't really any other like steady characters in the show. So then what began to happen is that people were like shipping, like wanting romance plots for fan fiction between Sam and Dean Winchester, but they're brothers. So then, because people weren't keen on the whole like incest factor of like
brother
that type
fucking?
of, yeah, like people weren't into the idea of like weird incest for these fictional characters for fan fiction. So then it turned into them writing fan fiction not about Sam and Dean Winchester, but about them, like the actors. So then it would be like, oh, it's actually about whatever their names are. I just know them as Sam and Dean. But about the two of them, and then there was fan fictions being written about the two of them together. But then at the same time, the actor who plays Dean was acting in a different show, like a different TV show that wasn't as well known, with like it was basically like a superhumans type show. So like people were getting injected with stuff and then turning into different kinds of people who then took on animal type traits. So then people who were a fan of the show saw that Dean, or the actor who plays Dean, was also in this other show, and then they were also writing fan fiction about Sam and Dean Winchester's actors together already. So then they were like, what if we took aspects from that TV show and brought it into this fan fiction that they were writing about the non-incesty, kind of incest stuff they were writing? But then what that led to is then fan fictions being made with there being a collective of people who had animalistic type traits. And then it kind of devolved from there, where all of a sudden there's classifications that came up from people making fan fictions. And that is what made it what it is today.
Strange.
Isn't that not the weirdest thing ever? Because I could have sworn, like, just because I feel like it's one of those things where, like, you discover stuff and you're like, oh, okay, like, there was, like, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was written, I don't know when, probably the 1800s, or, like, Frankenstein, or other, like, werewolf type things, and you're like, I feel like these have been and done, and they just kind of recycle back in. I fully thought that this was just, like, some derivative of, like, an 1800s werewolf book, where people were maybe wear something else, like a were rabbit or whatever, and then people just like rehashed it into today, and that's not actually what happened at all.
How strange.
Very strange. I mean, it's still a great book. I'm on the last book in the series now, and I'm having a great time.
Well, live your dream, and then once you're done, we can finally finish the Throne of Glass series. Yes,
I'm both excited and stressed. I've heard very polarizing things about the last book in that series, but it's supposed to be very dramatic either way.
I feel like it's been pretty dramatic up until this point, so I don't imagine it getting less dramatic.
That's a fair point. All right, should we spin our wheel of questions then and get loosey-goosey with this episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
A weak wheel today. All right. If you were a cryptid, what kind of cryptid would you be?
I would be a skinwalker.
Ooh, that's a really spooky one. Why would you pick that one?
Because then I could change into different people and be spooky to my enemies.
That's a good one. Or at least a good reasoning. I, for one, think that that's hella spooky. I would want to be something either like the Mothman or the Jersey Devil, where I just kind of fly around and trick people and scare them into thinking I'm some kind of like random beastie, but I'm just minding my own business.
Yeah, I'll be a skinwalker or Bigfoot. Those are my two.
See, I also thought Bigfoot for myself, just because I really love the idea of somebody keep like trying to catch me on camera, and just every time I'm like, like you can't catch me,
running out of there.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll be a skinwalker who turns into Bigfoot occasionally, and that's why they can never catch me.
Ooh, ooh, putting a little twist on it, maybe all of the cryptids are actually just different skinwalkers changing into things.
Maybe.
Spooky. All right, let's spin for our next question. Where was your prime hangout spot as a teenager?
Probably the what used to be Max but is now Circle K or Tim Hortons or the mall.
Yeah, that literally my first one was the Tim Hortons that we used to hang out at, or the Max that is now a Circle K. I was like, I think,
Or for some reason the exercise park that we would just spend hours talking
yeah,
at.
I think we spent more time at the exercise park than we did at the mall. If I'm gonna be totally honest.
It was free, so
Well, and the funniest part though is that you say that, and then people get this like image in their heads where they're like, "Oh, you guys must have been like being fit on this outdoor exercise
No.
playground type thing." And no, we literally just fucked around and would stare at people who were exercising and eat chips and gossip, and that was pretty much how that went.
and use all of the equipment incorrectly.
Oh yeah, like there'd be a sign up where it's like, "Don't climb in the wheel," and I'd be inside the wheel as you span me around, and I'd be like, "This is amazing. We're having so much fun."
Literally. Oh, I miss that. To be young again.
The golden days. All right, let's spin for our next question. Did you ever find anything creepy as a teenager?
Kind of. I feel like I used to be haunted by the phrase, I mean, I still feel like I maybe am, the phrase temperance. Because, okay, I feel like I told you about this, maybe not, but I used to see the phrase temperance everywhere, and then one day I came home from work and I got into the shower and this like metal tag that said temperance like literally like fell off my body, and I was like, I don't even know where this came from.
Oh, weird.
And like it wasn't like it was something from work, because like the store that I worked at had like nothing that would have had something like that, so it was just very odd. And like I just always used to find stuff like that, but I feel like finding the actual metal tag with that word on it was like kind of weird.
You do know that the word temperance is literally a tarot card that has like meaning attached to it, right?
What does it mean? I don't know if I ever actually looked it up.
It definitely means something. Who needs Google when I have an instruction book?
Exactly.
Temperance was like, would you always see the word like right side up or upside down?
I can't remember anymore. I feel like it's usually right side up, but I don't remember honestly anymore.
It means moderation, testing the waters, patience, balance, inner peace, tranquility, harmony, understanding, and accepting other perspectives. But when it's reversed, it means conflict, confusion, imbalance, excess, discord, indulgence, recklessness, thoughtless action, antagonism, and impulsiveness. I guess it depends on what you were doing at that time of your life.
I mean, I feel like I've always been a little bit impulsive, but I don't think I've ever had any inner peace. So it was probably upside down.
In that case, yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, that's just like a weird little fun fact because I had my book out earlier and then you mentioned that and I was like, oh, weird, that's totally a tarot card. I've been trying to think about if there's anything specifically creepy that happened to me as like a teenager, but I don't know. I feel like I've always had creepy things going on in some capacity, so I don't really remember. I don't know. Is there anything from when we were teenagers that I've told you about that was like creepy that it like shook your bones?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was probably things like I feel like you found something under your bed one time that like weirded you out.
Oh, probably. I was always finding weird shit around the house. This is like not related to when I was a teenager, but as an example, because I think I told you about this already. In my parents' house, there's always been one room in the basement where it's like a furnished basement. It's not an unfurnished basement, but it's always just been kind of like a weird, creepy room. And my mom had to go get access to the breaker box, and she was like, why is the breaker box like a foot into the wall? And then she realized that when they did the paneling in that room, they literally shaved off almost 4 feet in each direction of the wall. So she like cut out a part of the wall and looked inside of it, and there's like stairs and like children's clothing stuffed into the wall. And she was like,
Ooh.
yeah, she was like, maybe I don't want to know what's back there. Maybe I'm better off not knowing. Maybe I should just stay curious.
Literally, why am I your mom? That would be
I
me.
know.
I'm like, never mind, as I'm re-drywalling it.
That's pretty much it. Because I went and I saw, because my sister showed me, because mom told my sister and everything, but I like went down there and all you could see is like this like square part of the wall that's like been perfectly fitted back into place with like some tape until she can like until she can properly like panel it back in. And I was like, this is so funny, but also totally relatable. I feel like at my grand old age now, I'm in the same boat where if I see something creepy, I'm like, you know what? I'm better off not knowing. And then I just forget about it. I'm like, not my business.
Just put it back.
Yep, not my business. I don't need to know. It's fine. Stay curious.
Not for me.
Right?
You know?
But as for teenagery stuff, I don't know. I think part of it is that when, at least like now, having talked to other people who were teenagers once, I think we all come across creepy things when we're teenagers, but it just doesn't really sink in how creepy it is at the time. So then you get older,
Yeah.
and then there'll be like weird things that pop up, and you're like, wow, that was actually a pretty weird, creepy experience that I had. And then you just didn't recognize it at the time.
Well, do you have any like weird things from your adulthood? Like that one painting or whatever that you had to get rid of because things kept falling or something?
Yeah. So as actually, to be fair, I think this was when I was like 23, so a younger adult than I am today. So I'll take it. Almost a teenager. But yeah, I thrifted a painting, which of course it had to be a thrifted painting, but it was like a weird thing where, I had thrifted a painting, and then at around the same time, my grandma had given me a painting from her house. And then I found out that she'd gotten it as a gift from one of her friends. So I had both of these paintings up in kind of the same part of the room. And when we were at our old place, at the time, I think we just had Fig, so my one cat. And as much as he loved to jump onto stuff, he was always pretty careful. Like, I feel like with cats, they jump on certain things enough times, they kind of know how to, like, they know what's there. Like, they don't get too squirrely about stuff. But there was so many times where we would, like, be in bed or leaving, and we just hear, like, this clattering sound, and this painting, like, both of the paintings, the one that I thrifted and the one that my grandma gave me, were, like, on the ground. And, like, or, like, in other random parts of the house after falling off the wall. And I'm like, what is going on? And then there was this day where it was, like, and we just thought it was Fig. But he was also a kitten at the time, so he wasn't very big. So I was like, oh, like, I don't know, he must be jumping up there and then scaring himself so bad he, like, jumps away, and then we just come in and we see this painting on the ground. But there was fully one day where we came in, and it was late at night, and we were, like, we went to bed, and it was, like, 3 a.m, and Fig was sleeping with us in the bed, and it was just the 3 of us. And, again, we hear this painting fall on the ground, and I go, like, into the next room, and it is, like fully, so my grandma's painting, it came in, like, one of those decorative frames, like, where they have, like, stuff carved onto it and whatever. So it's meant to sit a certain way where, like, the bow of the frame is meant to be at the top, and then everything else. And then the painting I thrifted was just, like, it didn't have a frame, so I usually just leaned it up against the other one.
Yeah.
Both of these paintings had, like, flown across the room, and when I went to go grab, like, the one that my grandma gave me, the actual picture, so the frame backing was still on, but the painting on the inside of the frame had flipped upside down. So the bow in the frame was on the wrong side of it now, but the backing was still on. And I was like, maybe this doesn't belong here. maybe these paintings, plural, need a different home. So what I ended up doing is I left it in the hallway in, like, this little spot where, like, when people were moving out, they would just leave shit for other people to take, and they disappeared in, like, a couple days. So goodbye, good riddance.
There's someone else's problem, the haunted paintings.
Exactly. And maybe it was destiny and they deserved it.
Maybe the paintings belonged to two people who hated each other, so they were just, like, beefing it out in your apartment.
I wish. That'd be so entertaining compared to me just waking up at 4 a.m. with, like, paintings rocketing around my house. I'd way prefer that. I'd see a ghost fight any day.
Oh my god.
Right? It looks like we have one more question to spin for, so let's spin for it.
All right.
If you could be half human, half animal, what animal would you pick?
Bird. That way I could fly around and never have to use a car again.
That's fair. That's very fair. I think I would also pick some kind of bird. There's just not very many good options for most other things. Like, I can already walk, you know? Like, I don't really need that. I can already swim. I don't really need that either.
Yeah.
Flying, though, that's
Like,
uncharted territory. What kind of like, flying animal, then?
I would be like a bigger bird. That way I could support, like, you know, I don't want to be like a tiny bird, like a budgie, because then...
Would you be like an albatross or something then? Like something with a big wingspan?
Yeah. Either that or the budgies from The Boy and the Heron. Because they seem pretty big.
Well, those budgies from The Boy and the Heron were built like tanks. Like, they looked like they were like bouncers at a club. I was like, these budgies gonna fuck me up. They do want
yeah,
not want
one of
me in
those
here.
budgies.
Those are good budgies. I like that. I think I would kind of go in the same direction where I wouldn't want to be like a little bird. That kind of defeats the purpose, I think. I would go for like maybe a big owl or something, because there's some pretty big owls out there.
I could see that for you.
Right? I could also see the budgie for The Boy and the Heron for you.
I feel like it suits my personality.
It definitely does. All right. Well, with my questions out of the way, can you guess what today's episode topic is?
I feel like it's definitely one of your haunted objects kind of stories. I'm feeling like some sort of cryptid who's like half human, half animal is possessing some sort of object, and someone in high school finds it at their like regular hangout spot.
That would be pretty cool. My story's not that interesting, sadly. But you're pretty close for like some of it. All right. So for my description, we have, according to urban legend, the Goatman is a creature resembling a goat-human hybrid, often credited with canine deaths and purported to take refuge in the woods of Prince George's County, Maryland, United States of America.
The Goatman.
Well, you see, I was trying to think about, like, you know, what could go along with our like love theme February. February's about love. So then I was like, well, what about a little beastie that attacks couples? So then I came up with the Goatman.
I see.
Right, and here is my story for you if you're ready.
Yes, take her away, Em.
There are so many variations on the story of the Prince George's County Goatman that it is nearly impossible to keep them straight. For some, he is but a lonely, angry goat herder who went berserk after finding his beloved goats dead due to teens tampering. To others, he is in the same family as Bigfoot, a mythical beast that roams the earth, as we've heard occasionally about. And in perhaps the most bizarre tale of them all, the Goatman is the result of a ghastly experiment at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center, the USDA facility that has actually been forced to deny this one.
I feel like if you're putting it in the same category as Bigfoot, I'm going to take it about as seriously as Bigfoot.
That's fair. That's fair. What got me was I did not realize that a full research center had to like come out to the public and be like, we did not make a goat man, a man of goat. That did not happen.
Oh god, that's really funny though that they had to do that.
Right? But I do also really like not the romance, but like the lore behind the other one where they were like, there was a man who herded goats and these teens came along and decided to go bop bop to his goats, and he went on a rage because ain't nobody messing with his goats. He's the Goatman.
Ain't nobody messing with his goats.
Ain't no one. So that's just like a good little preface, I think, to my little story here, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about more about the sightings of this Goatman guy.
All right. Well, tell me all about him.
You got it. So the Goatman terrorizes lovers, chases teens, and also decapitates dogs, which is significantly less fun than the first two things.
Aww.
Yeah.
Terrorize lovers, but leave the dogs alone.
Yeah, like you can chase the teens and the lovers, but leave the dogs alone. That's what I'm saying. So then he also yells, squeals, and yes, makes goat noises. And he's made reported appearances all across the region. He's inspired both fear and fascination for decades, but according to historian, author, and enthusiast Mark Opsenick, the foremost expert on the Maryland legend, there is a canonical Goatman origin story, and it begins on Fletchertown Road in Bowie. So, the first media mention of the Goatman came on October 27th, 1971, in the Bowie-based Prince George's County News. In the article, writer Karen Hostler takes a deep dive into the University of Maryland Folkless archives, and she mentions that the Goatman, along with the ghosts and something called the Boa Man, that also haunt the woods around Fletchertown Road. 2 weeks later, Hostler wrote around the newspaper article in the headlines, "Residents fear Goatman lives, dog found decapitated in Old Bowie." The article describes the search of a family, the Edwards, for their missing puppy named Ginger. Days later, Ginger was found near Fletchertown Road, dead and headless.
Aww. Mm-hmm. That's so sad.
I know. See, that's the thing with, like, these cryptid stories. There almost always is either, like, there's, like, one of two things, which is either pets that die or go missing, or rednecks saying crazy shit. So if there's not any rednecks saying crazy shit right out the gate, then you know that a pet's going to turn up dead, which makes me sad every single time.
I'd rather the redneck.
Me too. Rednecks saying crazy shit, sign me up. But yes, this unfortunately... I mean,
that's just a regular occurrence where we live.
Pretty much, yeah. But unfortunately, we just have to say R.I.P. Ginger. You are loved and missed.
You were a good boy.
You good boy. The article connected the deceased dog with the Goatman, saying that a group of teenage girls, which also included the Edwards' 16-year-old daughter named April, had heard strange noises and seen a large creature on the night that the dog had disappeared. It also reported the sightings of an animal-like creature that walked on its hind legs that were increasing along Fletchertown Road. On November 30th, the Goatman got its first introduction to a larger audience thanks to the Washington Post. An article headlined, "A Legendary Figure Haunts Remote P.R. George's Woods." And it identifies the young men who found Ginger, who were named Ray Hayden, John Hayden, and Willie Geen. The Prince George's County Police are also quoted in the piece saying, "The legend just gets passed on from generation to generation," and that they've been receiving more calls about the Goatman sightings as the years have kind of gone on. So, Opsenick grew up mere miles from Bowie in Greenbelt and remembers very clearly the first time he heard about the Goatman legend. He was in the 7th grade and in the backseat of his friend's older brother's car. We would get rides and then when we would act up in the back seat, they would tell us to shut the hell up or they'll dump us on Fletchertown Road and that the Goatman would get us. Opsenick says, and he became enamored with the story, which to me screams trauma. I love that he's also like the foremost expert on the Goatman legend in the area today, and I love that he's like, it started with my friend's older brother threatening to feed us to the Goatman every day, and then I fell in love with the Goatman story, and I'm like, that is some
freaking weird attachment that he's got to the Goatman, but it is giving, like, you know, don't be bad or the boogeyman's gonna get you.
It 100% is. I thought that too, and I was like, but I love that it's his like friend's older brother. It's not like somebody's parents who are like, the Goatman's gonna get you. You know what I mean?
He got Stockholm syndrome from the freaking Goatman.
Might. So then, while attending Roosevelt High School, Opsenick and his friends would go Goatman hunting.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh. In fact, searching for the monster had become a local teen obsession, and Opsenick describes Goatman parties on Fletchertown Road and nearby Crybaby Bridge on Lotsford Road, And it
Crybaby Bridge.
Yeah, that's like another part of the county that these kids used to party at. So, yeah,
Okay.
but here's the thing. I love that they're called Goatman parties. And nobody made fun of that. You know what I mean?
They were all into it. They're like, you know what? We embrace the Goatman.
It kind of feels like I know we've talked about this on the show before when we've discussed Bloody Mary, but it would be like saying you're going to like a BM party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me and the gals were going to a BM party. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I like how you're avoiding saying it 3 times.
Listen, I got enough bad juju in my life. I do not need to be putting more on me. I'm good.
Listen,
Stay
I understand.
curious.
Stay curious and don't find BM in your nightmares.
Yeah, and don't find BM. But yeah, so they're going to these Goatman parties, as all the local teens do, and he did like a little article piece on it, which, to kind of summarize it, or how people have summarized it, because he's kind of like, he's the main source of quotes simply because this is kind of his bag. But most people reflect on his little expose on what Goatman parties are as something that sounds like out of the movie Dazed and Confused, which I have not seen myself, but
I have.
Clearly it has some kind of meaning.
And I am getting a very vivid picture in my mind of what these parties look like now.
Cool. At least somebody does, because I read it and I was like, I'm just confused. I don't know about Dazed and Confused, but that's okay.
You were both dazed and confused.
I was. And then he kind of caps off what he'd said as with Halloween night of 1979 was one of the craziest nights of my life. And that,
oh, hell yeah.
And that's a direct quote from Opsonic. So, then we move on to Dr. Barry Pearson, who is a professor of folklore in the English department at the University of Maryland and was in charge of the aforementioned University of Maryland folklore archives. Even today, he says, if I mention the Goatman on the first day of class, all the locals know exactly what I'm talking about. Fair enough, I guess. If you go in a place and they say don't go outside, or otherwise the Goatman's going to get you, you probably know who the Goatman is.
I would think so. I feel like he's probably as like famous in that area as like the Mothman or Bigfoot, you know?
Probably. I wonder if Pearson ever went to a Goatman party. He never says.
He probably did.
I feel like he did.
He's the founder of all Goatman parties, and I know it.
Yeah, he's actually the OG member of the Goatman parties. He's the original host.
It's just him. He's a party of one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So then Pearson thinks that the legend of the Goatman was influenced by car culture in the 60s and 70s, which then gave teens the freedom to discover the world around them. Which, like, he doesn't really expand on that. Like, I really tried to see, like, what the hell he means by cars. That was just, like, something he said offhanded, where he's like, yeah, teens and their cars in the 60s and 70s became, influenced who the Goatman is. And I was like, all right. Sounds good.
All right.
I'll take it. So then he thinks that it's
Damn
also...
those teens and their dances and their jeans.
It literally sounds like something out of Footloose. He's like, you give teenagers cars and all of a sudden they're talking about the Goatman.
Smoking the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, it all ties together. So then he also does think, though, which I kind of see this part, that it might be tied to what students would have been learning about Greek culture at the time, which is about a half-man, half-goat god named Pan, who is one of the Greek pantheon gods.
Yeah.
So then certainly, at the very least, the newspaper accounts would have helped as well, and goats are, kind of freaky anyways, which is what he said, but I also kind of agree with. I like goats, don't get me wrong, but I kind of get what he's saying with them being a little freaky. I can see it.
I mean, I feel like they're usually attributed to, like, satanic...
It's
like
the
a
eyes.
satanic symbol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, with, like, Black Billy and all that shit.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So then he expands on how goats are kind of freaky by saying, goats are known to be smelly and sometimes kind of charming, but if you look at them closely, especially in their eyes, they are really scary in their own way. And I lay awake every single night hoping and praying that somebody thinks that of me.
I do. He's like, they smell bad and I don't like them.
But they,
are charming.
But they can be charming in their own way, and their eyes are scary in their own way. Perfect. Love it.
I love that. That's great. I've never heard it better described.
Love it. But yeah, that was also a direct quote from him on his idea of like how goats influence this, and for all we know, maybe he's right. I don't know. Hard to say.
Who is to say?
Who's to say? So then, in 1987, Opsinick started writing for Strange magazine and wasted no time getting to the Goatman. In 1994, he wrote what he thinks is the first thoroughly researched piece about the legend, which is titled On the Trail of the Goatman. He would later expand the article into a chapter for his book that he wrote. He tracked down the Edwards family and the men who'd found Ginger to get the scoop on kind of how this all began, so to say. And John Hayden, who was one of the boys who had found Ginger, the dog, he and the others had seen an animal the night before. It was about 6 feet tall, walked on 2 feet, and was hairy. Hayden also noted that it made a high-pitched sound like a squeal, and that Opsinick was also able to speak with April Edwards, who was Ginger's owner. She said, "People came here and called it folklore, and the papers made us out to be ignorant hillbillies who did not know any better," Edwards said. "But what I saw was real, and I know I'm not crazy. Whatever it was, I believe that it killed my dog." Mark Opsinick doesn't believe that the Goatman exists, even though he went to all these Goatman parties.
He was just there for the vibes.
I kind of think so. So this is like his closing statement on like his opinion on the Goatman as the leading expert in Goatman. And he says, "I can't believe in something until I've seen it with my own eyes," he says. And he feels bad saying that because he genuinely believes that the people he talked to had seen something that night. And then he says, "I mean, anything is possible in this world. Maybe there is a half-man, half-animal creature out here somewhere.
And we'll never know."
And we'll never know. But it's short and sweet today. So basically sometimes when I research cryptid stories, like I really could expand it with like other people's accounts or like with rumor mill type stuff. But I kind of liked the idea of there being, number one, a leading Goatman expert who like leads all of the like, because anytime they make an article where they talk to like the city or to a representative of the city or anything, it is always Opsinick, I noticed. And it's just really interesting how everybody kind of like...
He's their go-to person for Goatman related instances.
Yeah, and the association stuff is so interesting about like how, or even like just the quotes about like how they think the Goatman came to be, about how apparently it has to do with teenagers having cars. And like the fact that goats are smelly but charming sometimes. I was like, I don't know if that's it, but okay.
You know what? It's short, it's sweet, and that's enough. We learned today that goats are smelly and charming, so I'm satisfied.
Right? And yeah, I don't know, Jen. Do you feel like after me telling you this story, you are on Team Goatman? Do you feel convinced?
Not convinced, but I would definitely go to a Goatman party if invited.
See, that's kind of where I'm at too. Here's my thing. I totally believe that somebody must have seen something that they didn't either know or understand what it was. As for it being like a half goat, half man, though, meh.
Questionable.
Yeah, questionable. I don't know.
But here's the question I have for you.
Oh, no.
Because I know I'll call them your preferred name because I know it freaks you out. If you were invited to a Wendy Boy party, would you go?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is how you end up getting skinned and eaten alive. Never. Absolutely not. A Wendy Boy party is like what cannibals host, where they're like, I want to go in the woods and eat a person. What am I going to host? A Wendy Boy party. Absolutely not. I would not go to one. And in the meantime, you're like, yeah, I might go. Could be fun. Feel a little silly, a little goofy.
Who doesn't like a satanic ritual every now and then?
Just to lighten the palate, just a little sprinkle here and there. Makes life interesting.
The tarot cards told me before this episode I need to be less pessimistic, so I'm just gonna go.
They did say that. That's really funny. Yeah. Should we I'm gonna pull a card for our readers or our listeners and see what they need to look for this week, since I have the deck with me.
Oh, that's fun.
Right? I was feeling inspired since they've literally been staring at me in the face since I looked up what temperance means. All right, what do our listeners need to know for the upcoming week? They need to know. Oh, there is one that's jumping out. Okay, our listeners they got the star upright. And that means the star upright: hope, peace, the calm after the storm, transformation, compassion, renewal, spirituality, inspiration, the silver lining, protection, unexpected help, and wishes fulfilled. So our listeners just need to know that things are going to get better. You don't know what it is yet, but things are looking up for you. All of you, it's going to be good. We're all going to be happy and healthy and hearty and having a great time.
See, I edit our episodes, so I count myself as a listener, so I'm going to just claim that one.
You're like,
I want
take
that one.
it. Yeah. Well, that would mean that I'm the only person who doesn't listen, because I used to, but then it became weird listening to myself talk twice, because I was also there the first time it happened.
Yeah, I get it.
So, as the only non-listener partaking in this, I hope everybody has a fantastic week ahead. If you liked this episode, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So that would be great. 5 stars helps us climb the charts and get some more of you guys. We also have a website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We have a Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon. And we have social media, which is Wheel of Crime on Facebook, Twitter, or X, if you want to be fancy. What did I say? Twitter, which is not Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And we have an email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com if you want to send in anything to us, or just tell us that we're pretty, because we need to hear it. Boost our egos. It feels great.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. And then also, just as we've been doing for the last little while for our listener stories, if there is anything that we talk about in our stories where you feel compelled to share a story of your own, we do regularly do listener stories now for the holidays and other special occasions throughout the year. So if you'd like to submit a story about your life and something either spooky or crime related or related to a story that we talked about and kind of have your moment on the show, feel free. We love to hear from you guys and see what you've been up to and get to know you better, because what are friends for? Am I right?
Yeah. And the link for that is in our Instagram bio.
Yes, ma'am. All right. And with that, this is the end. The end for now.
Yes, that's it. That's all. And we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.